It's my nerd world. Welcome to it, a Star Wars show. Is Andor poised to be the best Star Wars streaming show yet? Perhaps. I'll talk about that on this week's episode. Plus, we got Disney Day coming up. I'll share with you my limited expectations. A brand new Obi-Wan Kenobi documentary is about to drop as well. Speaking of Andor, we have an exclusive Andor clip that probably has me more excited for the show than I already was from the trailers we've been given so far, and a really interesting interview with Tony Gilroy on this week's episode. Thank you so much for taking time out of your valuable day to check out my Nerd World of Star Wars show. Let's go ahead and get right to it.
Nothing will stand in our way.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I will finish what you started.
Who are you? I'm no one.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
The Force. It's calling to you.
My Nerd World.
Just let it in.
The website is mynerdworld.net. You can check out the show on that website. You can also find out about my EMBARK, a science fiction space opera series. I'll have more details if you're a reader at the end of this week's episode. I am your host, Jon Justice, and I was sitting in my comfortable chair on Saturday morning preparing to give you a show, and my internet went down. They've been doing construction outside our block, and this is the second or third time the construction crews, while digging, have cut through my internet line. So I didn't get a chance to record a show this weekend. So that means you get a bonus middle-of-the-week episode, which actually timed out a lot better because there wasn't a ton to get into over the weekend, but a brand new clip from the Andor live-action streaming series, which drops on September 21st, came out just a couple of hours ago. And honestly, it has me even more hyped than I was before for Andor, based off this one clip. I'll share it with you coming up here in just a moment. Plus, from theplaylist.com, an interview with the showrunner and the creator, essentially, of Andor, Tony Gilroy. Really fascinating interview with Tony Gilroy. I'll share with you some comments from, and then we'll get into a little bit of your listener feedback this week. So let's start off here with just a couple of news items. Not a ton going on, but we'll talk about what little is out there.
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
Now, let me say first off that there are quite a bit of leaks that have dropped this past week. As a matter of fact, a couple of different websites have been reporting on one substantial leak, or a series of leaks, from the Acolyte, and actually giving episode breakdowns of the show. I will not be sharing them on the show, nor will I be looking at the breakdowns myself. This is a little different than how I usually approach spoilers. I'm usually more spoiler friendly, but for a show that it's still a long way from coming out where anything can change, I'm changing how I normally approach these spoilers. Perhaps when we get closer to the show and we get a few things that maybe aren't as spoilery, or if I get fully into the spoilers, I'll share with a fair warning what I'm reading. But as of right now, I'm changing my stance a little bit as it comes to spoilers. That might change once we get back to getting our theatrical releases. But again, for a show that is coming out in production, to get leaks this early, who knows what is going to change between now and then. I was also listening to a podcast or reading an article about this, and I thought it was funny. It was a podcast. Somebody made an offhand comment. That's right. And I may have mentioned this before on the show, But I almost wish we could go back. Like, I feel like doing a Star Wars podcast where I go back and even look at my own theory podcasts, speculation, it's a better word, speculating on when we get trailers and footage from a film. I'd love to go back and listen to those to hear how off everybody was. I was watching some Star Wars trailers just randomly the other day as I was on YouTube. And I had to chuckle because as I watched the trailers for the sequel trilogy, which I love, as I was watching the trailers for the sequel trilogy, I just realized how far off the mark so much of the speculation is. It's fun to do. I'm not going to stop speculating, but man, the speculation typically is completely off the mark. And I'll give you one example, and we'll dive into the items that I actually promoted and not me going off on some tangent for 5 minutes. But there's a fantastic YouTube channel called Eckhart's Ladder. He posts all kinds of Star Wars videos up there, from gaming to ships to, analyzing of footage and stuff like that. So he posted this one quick clip. It was about a minute long. And he was talking about the fireplace scene from Attack of the Clones. And, that's the, I wish I could just wish away my feelings. So Padme's in that gorgeous dress, the black dress she's wearing with the black choker on it. And they're there in a room on Naboo and the fire's burning in the background. And Eckhart's Ladder made a really interesting point. He was talking about how he was either listening to a podcast or reading an article, and the person was breaking down all the symbolism in the scene and how the black of what Padme was wearing and the collar up around her neck were foreshadowing of what would happen to Anakin eventually, and even with his choking her at the end of Revenge of the Sith, spoiler alert, through the Force. And the fireplace was representing of what would happen to Anakin to get him to that place where he would turn into Darth Vader because of the lightsaber fight with him and Obi-Wan Kenobi on Mustafar. And what Eckhart's Ladder did, it was really kind of funny. He said, yeah, but none of that was intentional. And he went to the art book and some of the makings of, to which pointed specifically to that scene, and talked about how George just wanted Padme to be wearing something sexy and something romantic and seductive. The way that it was worded in the art book was something that looked like it could fall off at any moment, and the fireplace was simply chosen because it was a romantic setting. So perhaps there could have been some intentional foreshadowing going on by George Lucas that he didn't make available in any sort of interviews, or it was just, speculation of what would come based off of what we saw, in the seed. But at the end of the day, it just made me laugh because it was like, yeah, that probably wasn't intentional, but if you want to extrapolate from that, go right ahead. All right. So all of that is to say there is other news out there, but I'm not going to be sharing it on the show this week simply because I don't want to go and spoil something that's not coming out for well over a year. Let's get into a couple items, though. We do have Disney Day 2022 coming up on September 8th. That is the day where Disney Plus will go and announce a number of different projects across multiple IPs that they own. We don't know exactly all of which is coming out for Star Wars. I've gotten my hopes up for Disney Day before, and I have been disappointed many a time. We have been told and given a preview for the Obi-Wan Kenobi making of. Obi-Wan Kenobi, A Jedi's Return, that's going to be dropped. It's a behind-the-scenes documentary about the making of the live-action streaming show. That will be coming out on September 8th. It's interesting, though, because Disney's dropping their Disney Gallery series. They had the label on the Disney Gallery for all of the behind-the-scenes stuff so far, and it's oddly missing from this Obi-Wan Kenobi documentary, even though it's been there for the other Star Wars documentaries. It's an odd choice unless they're shifting away from that now. I know the Marvel Cinematic Universe does their Assembled series, so I kind of figured that Disney Gallery was going to be something that stayed, but as of right now, they've removed it from this particular documentary, and it remains to be seen whether or not they drop that moniker all together I happen to like it, but I also know that when it comes to Star Wars and Disney, they like to change their minds a lot. We're going to talk a bunch about Andor, and if you remember back when Rogue One was announced, it was a Star Wars anthology movie. And then they ended up changing it to a Star Wars story. And then we got, Rogue One, a Star Wars story. We got Solo, a Star Wars story. And then, Solo did what Solo didn't do, and they dropped that from the labeling of films. So maybe it'll come back down the road, but I highly, highly doubt it. So in terms of news, that's really all we got coming up. I'm keeping my expectations low for Disney Plus Day. I don't know what else we could get at this point. I'm certainly not going to speculate on getting any of the footage from Celebration that we got that was leaked online for Ahsoka or The Mandalorian, simply because Season 3, simply because it seems as if Disney is sticking with not releasing any footage until we get into the window of promotion for that particular product. They're not promoting things that far out. Or that much in advance. The big question mark going into the rest of the year, though, is we know that we have Mandalorian Season 3 coming out at the end of the year, right? Or is it the beginning of next year? It's either right at the end of the year or beginning of next year. We're still supposed to get Bad Batch Season 2, and we're supposed to get the new animated series Tales of the Jedi this year. There was a lot of talk that Bad Batch Season 2 is going to come out in September, but it's not on the release schedule. And we do have a trailer for it. So right now it's up in the air of when we're going to get Bad Batch 2. What's really fascinating, in my view, is that my son Kyle and my wife were at the store, and Kyle sent me a snapshot of a Lego set of a brand new ship that I've never seen from the Bad Batch Season 2. And it's already on the shelves. So typically that happens when a show is supposed to be released and it gets pushed back, but the products can't be stopped from heading out to market. That happened with Dune. Dune had a bunch of toys attached to the film that ended up coming out long before the movie ever did. Same thing with Top Gun Maverick, because all those films got delayed due to the pandemic. So, for whatever reason, Bad Batch Season 2 has been delayed. We have not gotten a release date. Maybe that is something that we'll end up getting on Disney Plus Day, along with this Obi-Wan Kenobi, A Jedi's Return, which I'm really interested to watch. Even though Obi-Wan Kenobi, I have incredibly mixed feelings about. I was watching an interview with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, and they were talking about the future of Star Wars. And Dave Filoni made a really interesting comment. He said that he liked the fact that all of these shows, and he was listing off all the shows, that the live-action shows that have come out and the ones that are coming out. And he made a comment that they all fit within the same universe, but they all are their own thing and look different. And I thought that was interesting. If only because the Obi-Wan Kenobi show just looks so much different. And it still really takes away from the overall experience of that story. I'm not going to belabor a point that I've said many times on the show, but I just cannot get past the production quality on Obi-Wan Kenobi. Especially now with seeing these clips from Andor and the little bit that we've seen. It's just such an odd series of choices that show made that make me scratch my head, because going back and watching The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett and the Mandalorian seasons in the Book of Boba Fett, you just, in my view, can't compare the two. They look, Book of Boba Fett, apart from some of the action sequences, and definitely The Mandalorian, just looks so much better than Obi-Wan Kenobi did. And Andor looks so much better. But I am interested to see the behind the scenes, and perhaps that will answer my question, because I know that watching the behind the scenes on the Book of Boba Fett gave me a different perspective on what they were going for, and a better appreciation for what Book of Boba Fett was and is. So I'm kind of hoping that this is one of those circumstances where I watch this behind the scenes documentary and I get a view that I wasn't familiar with or wasn't aware of, and perhaps that'll provide some necessary context for me to be able to look past why the show looks kind of terrible in most parts of it. All right, let's move on to more exciting things. Today, a brand new clip for Andor dropped.
This is not going to go the way you think.
So this is simply a conversation between the Stellan Skarsgård character and Diego Luna, Cassian Andor. That's all this is. But this clip alone has me even more excited for this show than the trailers that I've seen so far.
So which is it? I know Biggs has a game. I know you bribe quartermasters to leave valuables on the ships before they come in for scrap, but this isn't that. This isn't something that let pass.
No. I went in and got this myself.
How? How's that possible? It was sealed on the Imperial Naval Base in Steergard.
Look, you got the money, I got the box. What else is there to talk about?
I'll give you another 1,000 credits to tell me how you got it.
Another 1,000.
Done. How?
You just walk in like you belong.
Takes more than that, doesn't it?
What, to steal from the Empire? What do you need? A uniform, some dirty hands, and an Imperial toolkit. They're so proud of themselves. They don't even care. They're so fat and satisfied. They can't imagine it.
Can't imagine what?
That someone like me would ever get inside their house, walk their floors, spit in their food, take their gear.
That was just some fantastic writing. Spot on acting by both these actors, whom I enjoyed quite a bit in both respects. The writing was, again, was just fantastic in that little scene. I don't know if you caught it there in the beginning, but there's a reference to Biggs, which I thought was interesting, which, again, gets me excited for more pieces of content that point back to A New Hope that add more context and relevancy to it. If we end up finding out that Biggs was an early part of the or just we get more backstory of Biggs and his early part of the rebellion, right? Especially considering that Luke was wanting to go to the academy, as he mentioned in A New Hope, which Biggs went to, and then obviously went and joined up with the rebellion. So I'm just really excited for this show. I'm a fan of Rogue One. I'm not as gaga over it as a lot of Star Wars fans, and I'm not one to say that it's the best Star Wars movie since Disney took over Star Wars. I love the sequel trilogy, and those three films. I don't want to say they all sort of rise above Rogue One for me, but that's my, that Star Wars, the cinematic Skywalker tale Star Wars, that's more my Star Wars. I love Rogue One. I know it's attached to A New Hope. I think it's fantastic. And, it's a constant rewatch for me. But the sequel trilogy still always, kind of ranks above that. That being said, it really does seem as if, and from what I'm about to share with you here, that we are getting a show that's in line tonally with Rogue One. And that does have me excited, especially since what we've gotten, between Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi. There was a lot of Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi. When you go with the idea that this is still made for children, as George Lucas had always said, it makes those shows, in my opinion, more enjoyable, because if you're looking at it through that lens, especially Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi, if you're looking at it like it's a TV show and it's meant for kids, you go, okay, that works. Just because so much of it's seen dumbed down. Where Andor seems like your grown-up, more adult Star Wars. The Game of Thrones of Star Wars is, in terms of a series, right? That tone without the, violence and explicit material. Watched the new House of Dragons and really enjoyed it. I just, it's a bummer that, Game of Thrones has now become synonymous with so much explicit content, right? Rated R content, bordering on worse than rated R. All right, let's move over to this. Tony Gilroy. He is, again, the showrunner. He created showrunner for Andor. Academy Award nominated writer and director. He's credited with rescuing Rogue One after he came on board to write and direct the major reshoots, and then oversaw the production process. So sat down for an interview with a number of different sources, and what I have is an article here that kind of combines those interviews into one article with a lot of really interesting comments about the behind the scenes of Andor. So Gilroy spoke about the buy-in on Andor during the press conference for the series, describing the initial element that got him excited about the prospect of going on another Star Wars adventure. He says, I think the main idea is we have a character in Rogue One and we know where he ends up, Gilroy explained, and we know how accomplished and complicated he is. And the idea that we can do a story that takes him literally from his childhood origins and walk him through a 5-year history of an odyssey that takes him to that place during a revolution, during a moment in history, in a place where huge events are happening and real people are being crushed by it. The fact that we could follow somebody as an example of a revolution all the way through to the end, that was the walk-in for me. That was the buy-in, the opportunity to do that. It's a potent moment in history, Gilroy continued. And a lot of people are facing a lot of real difficult times and difficult decisions along the way. And that's what the show is about, the opportunity to do a large scale on a big canvas. That's why I'm here. Now, the article goes on to say, during my own interview, I asked Gilroy if we're going to see more Rogue One characters like K2SO and more characters from the Rebel Alliance milieu of Rogue One. And he said, yes, of course. But in a classic, excitable Tony Gilroy fashion, the filmmaker launched into a bigger idea of where it's all going, including revealing the final scene of the series. Yeah, I mean, our final scene of the show is no secret. It's going to be Cassian walking across the tarmac to get in the ship to go to the rings of Kafrene, to go meet Daniel Mays. This was the informant character that Cassian kills in Rogue One because he's become a liability. He's going there. Don't worry if that feels like a spoiler. As Gilroy himself says, it's not about the when and where, it's about the how and why, which none of us know yet. This is really interesting, too, because the show is essentially going to do, while it's going to be a prequel to Rogue One, its finale is going to very much be a finale that was like Rogue One. We knew about the finale for the most part, apart from, spoiler alert, Vader's appearance. But we knew that the end of Rogue One happened like 10 minutes before the beginning of A New Hope. So we already kind of knew how it was going to end, and so it's fascinating to me that Andor is going to be ending in a similar fashion. He goes on to say, I mean, you watch people watch History Channel shows or whatever. What's that story? Well, you know how it's going to turn out, and it's still, why did it happen? Now, the original early plan was for Gilroy to direct alongside the Season 1 filmmakers of Toby Hayes and Susanna White and Benjamin Caroon. But pandemic hit, and that plan went very awry. I spoke with Gilroy recently, and one of the first questions I asked the filmmaker was whether he would direct in Season 2. The answer was a quick no, but it became clear in the response that's by design, because writing, showrunning, and overseeing of an entire series is all-consuming. Season 2, I am not, when asked if he would direct any episodes of Andor in Season 2. No, how was I even going to? I mean, COVID kind of saved the show because I was so arrogant and naive about how difficult and huge and what it was going to be, he said, characteristically self-deprecating. I mean, I had no clue, and if I had directed, I mean, I would have been. I don't know what would have happened to the show. The job I have to do now is so all-consuming and so much more than that. It's just not good use of my time to be on the set at all. The directors that we got, they come and they're energized. They're ambitious. And so I can take it all the way down and do the whole thing. But they come in with a new hunger, and that's what you really need. They come in with a little extra thing, he continued about his A-team of directors. And it's very exciting to wake up because all my days are out of New York. It'll be 5 o'clock in the morning, wake up, turn on dailies, and go, wow, I wouldn't have shot it that way. That's, wow, look what they did right. So, no, I'm not directing. No, I can't. I want to come back and direct something else later on, but I can't do that right now. The job's too big. I can't afford it, the time. Now, Gilroy is already working on Season 2, and it will be shooting later this fall. Writers Dan Gilroy, Bo Willimon, and Tony himself will all return for Season 2. The first time we did a 6-day writer's room. This time we did an 8-day writer's room, he explained. I mean, come in. I bring a huge, 100-page pile of meat to put on the table, and then he laughs. We beat it out. So, interesting interview with Tony Gilroy. It's funny because he's coming off much different in this particular interview than what I remember him from when they were talking about his taking over of Rogue One. When he took over Rogue One and we got further quotes from him about that change, I remember that he came off as rather harsh, saying that Rogue One initially, before he came in to fix things, was kind of a big old mess, and had dissed Star Wars to a certain extent as well. So this interview, I thought, was rather fascinating because it talked about him sort of getting excited and being more self-deprecating, and that's not the way that I had foreseen him, or I had seen him portrayed in what I'd read before. Now, granted, I haven't seen a single interview with Tony Gilroy, so I just know that he did do a fantastic job on Rogue One, and I would love to see a documentary on like really what happened with that movie. Because it's fascinating to me that Gareth Edwards, while I know he's slated to direct another movie now, he hasn't directed anything in 5 years. And he's not even involved in Andor whatsoever. So, one can't help but wonder how much of what Rogue One ended up being really ended up coming from Gareth Edwards, who I'm a fan of. I really enjoyed Monsters. That was his independent film before he got Godzilla, which I thought was great. And then Rogue One. We know from those trailers, 70% of what you see in the Rogue One trailers is not in the film. And that's because of all the reshoots. Maybe one day we'll get a full behind the scenes on that. However, given how Disney's kind of kept things quiet, and usually that stuff has to leak out, and it hasn't leaked out yet, I am not going to be holding my breath.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
All right, a little slow week on listener feedback, but Salvador Mendez did write in from a week and a half ago, I guess, saying, it's interesting as always. I agree with you. All the comments on the sequel's actors are revealing because Lucasfilm is planning a new Star Wars Skywalker Saga 10 through 12. Interesting. Besides, Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation reveal the post-sequel era characters' roles. Rey is searching for new Jedi temples, Finn is looking for Force-sensitive people, and Poe is training new pilots, and Rose is doing politics. Also, Adam Driver spoke about coming back to Star Wars like John Boyega. Daisy Ridley exposed. What do you think? Yeah, at this point, I don't know what Disney is planning, if they're planning to do a Skywalker Saga 10 through 12. I know there was a recent interview with John Boyega, and this is all stemming back to the comments that Poe Dameron made on the last episode that had me thinking that perhaps, there will be a project post-Return of the Jedi coming out sooner than later. And I had speculated that maybe it's going to be a retooled Rogue Squadron that actually includes some of those characters from the sequel trilogy. John Boyega recently said in an interview that he didn't say directly he was done with Star Wars, but kind of said that he's fine to let it lie at the moment. So that's a little bit different than what Oscar Isaac, said in his interview, that he would be more than willing to come back. John Boyega seemed a little bit more hesitant. It turned into a clickbait article where the headlines were basically, John Boyega says he's never returning to Star Wars, and he never said that. So I don't know where they're going with the movies, and I hope that we get some news on that soon. I keep beating this drum and making this comment, and I want my Star Wars cinema back, especially with like Top Gun Maverick. It came out on digital, and I watched the movie again yesterday. It's such a great movie. I want that Star Wars feel back. Andor has the potential, in my opinion, to do that. It looks like it's going to be fantastic, and it looks the most cinematic quality so far that we've seen from any of the live-action shows. I'm trying to keep my expectations in check because I remember how excited I was in seeing the trailers for Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then, unfortunately, it did not live up to my expectations. TalkShowNerd@gmail.com. TalkShowNerd@gmail.com if you'd like to comment on the show or leave a comment up on YouTube as well. Before I let you go, if you haven't already and you are a reader and lover of sci-fi, I hope that you will treat yourself, a friend, or a family member with science fiction. It's written for adults, but great for ages 11 years and older. EMBARK Book 1, available right now on Amazon.com, or if you go to mynerdworld.net, which will direct you back to Amazon.com, you can pick up Book 1 today for just 99 cents. You can pick up the trilogy, the first 3 books, which does create a full arc in the story. That's available for just $3.99. You can also get all 7 books in the completed series in hardcover, paperback, and audiobook. The way the story is laid out is you get a full trilogy in Book 1, Treasure in Darkness, Book 2, and The Vanishing War, Book 3. And then in Book 4, you get a first-person one-off adventure with one of the main characters, not a part of the main group, but he is one of the main characters from the original trilogy in his own adventure of Corbijn and the Asteroid of Misfortune. Now, that's its own one-off story that can be read by itself. The ebook for that is also available for just 99 cents. And that's really a good introduction into the EMBARK series if you wanted to start in the middle. But that book serves as a bridge. It finishes a story, a side story that was started in The Vanishing War, Book 3. And wraps up that story and then gives you the beginning of the second trilogy in the series, starting with Book 5, The Rocket Queen, Book 6, Fear the Dangerous Night, and then Book 7, Battle Planet. That's the most recent release. The description for Book 1 goes as follows. Follow a ragtag squadron of pilots and one reluctant hero on a journey through the far reaches of space as they fight for their survival among the stars. When Taft Guardia wasn't making upgrades to his ship, he was trying to impress fellow pilot Katha Morrow. He'll get more than he bargained for when Katha needs his help investigating a cryptic message from her late aerospace engineer father, leading them to a shocking discovery. They soon learn that an industrial accident has set off a global catastrophe, and Taft realizes what Katha's father left behind might be their key to survival. Amid the growing chaos, a corporate megalomaniac with an armada of starships at his disposal will stop at nothing to obtain what they've found. Now Taft, unable to escape his destiny, will face a dire choice: protect the power in his possession or risk everything to save the one who matters most. If you like your science fiction space opera epic filled with just enough romance and a ton of action, then EMBARK is perfect for you. Again, available on Amazon.com. Search for EMBARK, Jon Justice, or mynerdworld.net. Also available in hardcover, paperback, and audiobook. Thank you so much for checking the show out this week. Sorry for the delay, but blame the guys that are giving us a new road outside because it's all their fault. So we'll be back either middle next week or next week with a brand new show. Of course, if there's any breaking news, I'll be back behind the mic as quickly as I possibly can. I hope you enjoyed the show. And again, thank you so much for checking it out. I hope you'll support my Nerd World and what I do through my Nerd World by going up and picking up your preferred copy of my science fiction space opera series for yourself or a friend. I really, 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 really would appreciate it. So we'll be back again real soon. I hope wherever you are happy, you are healthy, and you're safe. Talk to you again real soon. Bye.
The Force will be with you, always.
My Nerd World.